How many times have you come aboard your boat in the evening, turned on all the lights, and after just an hour, seen the battery indicator begging for mercy? If this happens to you, one of the reasons is probably that you still have the old incandescent bulbs. So let's replace them with LEDs. Hello, welcome to DNet Studio by Valila. I'm Fabio Portesan. Today we'll explore this. LED lights are essential for boaters. Until recently, LEDs weren't looked upon favorably, but today, LEDs are the best choice. There's energy savings, but let's continue. Why did we used to use incandescent bulbs? For years, incandescent bulbs were the standard everywhere, affordable, easy to find, and offering that warm, welcoming light everyone loved. Unfortunately, from a technical standpoint, 90% of the energy they use turns into heat, not light. And on board, as you probably know, heat and high energy consumption are definitely not the best friends of batteries. Moreover, incandescent bulbs, as the name suggests, are much more dangerous than LEDs. In addition to the risk of fire, you also have to consider the chance of getting a nasty burn. However, I will admit that a nice spotlight, with its little incandescent glow, does have a charming retro appeal, but that's really a matter of aesthetics. Personally, I am a strong supporter of LEDs, as long as they are high quality. Because on a boat, the main issue, as always, is humidity. On that note, check out our videos on how to combat humidity. Standard LEDs designed for cars or homes aren't made for use in salty environments, so be careful with what you buy. Let's compare LEDs and incandescent lights to better understand their pros and cons. Let's start with energy consumption. LEDs use very little power, typically between 1 and 10 watts at most. But they provide much brighter light compared to an incandescent bulb of the same wattage. Traditional bulbs usually start at 10 watts and go up from there. LEDs generate almost no heat, whereas, as we all know, it's best not to touch a traditional bulb. The lifespan of LEDs is also remarkable, as we're talking about over 5,000 hours of light, and in some cases even more than 20,000. Meanwhile, the poor traditional bulb struggles to last beyond 1,000 hours. LED light is almost always adjustable, both in color and dimmable in intensity, whereas traditional bulbs have fixed color and intensity. Additionally, the cost of LEDs is almost always higher than that of traditional bulbs, but for good reason. As you can see, LEDs outperform incandescent bulbs in every aspect. Let's do the math together. I have 8 light points in total. By creating a mix of incandescent lamps to achieve optimal lighting, I would end up consuming about 150 to 200 watts, just for the square area. If I extend this reasoning to the 4 cabins, considering a minimum of 2 light points each, even though I actually have 3, and to the 2 bathrooms with 2 light points each, we reach an average of at least 450 to 500 watts, not even counting courtesy lights and, most importantly, navigation lights. With LEDs, on the other hand, even if we overestimate, we barely reach 100 watts. In practice, you can keep all the lights in the saloon on and often use less power than just a couple of incandescent bulbs. And let me give you some advice. If you spend a lot of time at anchor, the anchor light absolutely must be LED. Your batteries will thank you. Turn on your anchor light. The most obvious advantage, as you've seen, is energy savings, but that's not all. LED lights also generate less heat, which means a lower risk of overheating. They offer excellent light output and come in different colors, warm tones for the cabin, cool white for chart work, and even red for nighttime use, enhancing comfort on board. Additionally, just a couple of solar panels will be enough to recharge the batteries with the energy used to light up the boat. More autonomy, fewer worries. The good news is that in most cases, you don't need to redo the entire electrical system. Simply replacing the bulbs is enough. Just like in the case of the stern light I mentioned earlier. First, you just need to replace the old incandescent bulb with a new one. The only thing you need to check is the socket type, because it could be BA15S, G4 or 11 or 16, or other typical marine formats. Another important thing, of course, is the voltage. Is your system 12 or 24 volts? If you replaced an LED bulb, if it won't turn on, flip it. Choose K value. What is K? They are degrees Kelvin, which is the measurement of light temperature. From 2700 to 3300 Kelvin, we get the light I like warm, perfect for living areas, and atmospheric, since 70% of ambience comes from lighting. From 3300 to 5300 Kelvin, the light is neutral, good for brighter spaces like the chart table or storage compartments. 5300 Kelvin, say 5600, the light is cold, not my style. Still, it's ideal for technical areas like engine rooms, where you need to see. But if you want to go further, you can directly replace traditional or fluorescent ceiling lights with dimmable LED models, some even featuring touch activation. And some of them are even wireless. Have I convinced you to buy LEDs? Great! But be careful not to make these mistakes. As I said, avoid LEDs for motorhomes. They aren't protected against humidity and won't last on board. Don't mix too many colors, unless you want your boat to be a floating nightclub or you're a fast fan. And furious. Be careful with very cheap LEDs. They use little power, but often provide very little light as well. Let's do something useful now. Let's install an LED together. We're in the bathroom on Valleilla, the one for the yacht cabins, which is usually used mainly by Leilani and also by guests. What are we doing today? I've decided not to replace the original ceiling light, which we'll change later, but to add a new light point. I'll add this LED using the two wires that already come here to power this outlet. 12 volts. The outlet is old, it's oxidized, I don't trust it anymore, so I want to remove it and replace it with this beautiful spotlight. Why am I installing this? Because the bathroom is very small, and the mirror is directly in front. So, by having a light point here, we'll illuminate this whole area and therefore also the people inside. The tools we need to do the job are, of course, the LED, pliers, a crimping tool, a small screwdriver, a slightly larger screwdriver, 2 heat shrink tubes, 1 black and 1 red, our trusty tester, a small box of cable lugs, and some spare heat shrink tubing. There are so many of them. Yellow ones, which are very nice, but not used very often. So, the first thing to do, of course, is to clear the workspace of anything unnecessary, in this case, all the specifications of the young woman. Right now, I am checking the voltage of the two wires that are already crimped, because they were connected to this socket. As mentioned earlier, we have 12 and 22 volts. What do I do now? Now, I'm going to turn off the service switch to cut off the power so that I can now work safely. The first thing to do is to remove the socket. Let's say it's quite simple and you really just need a small screwdriver. A micro screwdriver. The work inside is easier than the work outside. For outdoor work, of course, you need to know that it has to be much more waterproof than indoor work. Even though, as already mentioned, our worst enemy is moisture. Let's give it a cleave. Perfect. Break time equals 0.5s/. We're already, as you might have already noticed, quite lucky because to install this LED, you see it has a support on the back. This support already has a hole, so we'll place it like this. It's perfect. That said, you can see there are 2 screws to insert inside. Now, this covering is very soft. If the covering were harder and you tried to insert a screw without at least making a pilot hole, what would happen? What would happen is that it would crack, and then you would have to replace the entire panel. In this case, I already know it won't happen. Let's center it. For convenience, I'll do it like this with the help of a permanent marker. Here we are, we're almost at the edge. We're almost at the edge, so we need to be a bit careful. We'll make a small pilot hole for you. Okay, there's another one over here. I know it's hard to see what I'm doing, but unfortunately, the size of the bathroom is what it is. And we all know it, because when I switched from Hinelson, we got Valila. Everyone kept asking me, what boat would you like to get? What boat would you like to get? What boat would you like to get? The only thing I could answer was, a boat with bigger bathrooms, and that's exactly what happened. So this one is small, but just imagine the other one. And we've marked one, and now it's her turn. This way, we carefully fasten and secure the ring break time equals 0.5s/, where the LED will be installed. And now it's installed. LEDs always come with wires that don't have cable lugs attached. In this case, I decided to have the 2 cable lugs myself, just to avoid making connections with electrical tape on the boat. Electrical tape isn't ideal, not even the kind used by electricians. You need to use the cable lugs and then cover them. This is due to the humidity. What will I do now? I will carefully pass the 2 cables behind the desk. This one here, I'll put it like this. And voila! And bang! And we made a nice spotlight. Now, I'll move the room and show you what's behind here. Now, if you wanted. For even greater safety, you could put a small piece of heat shrink tubing on these cable lugs. This would be an excellent solution, and that's what we're going to do. A small piece is more than enough. Let's connect black to black. Red to red for the connection, and then we'll carefully use a lighter to shrink the tubing. Now the tubing has shrunk and is secure. Now all that's left to do is insert them into their respective cables. This one and this one, and then the spotlight will turn on. Let's hope we've restored power from the service batteries. This is a touch spotlight, so simply by touching it, there it is, it should turn on. Yes, it's on, and it's dimmable, which allows you to adjust the brightness of the light. Most importantly, it has a USB port that lets you charge an electric shaver if needed. You can even charge your phone while you're in the bathroom, comfortably taking care of your needs. Once this job is done, remember to use a couple of cable ties to tidy up the wires in the back. In our case, we have a small compartment in the back where things will also be placed inside the other storage spaces. If you have spotlights with exposed wires inside, try to use a couple of cable ties to avoid placing them right in the middle of the closet or storage compartment, because that can be very dangerous. Job well done. Let's see how it looks tonight. Switching to LED lights. It's one of those simple, affordable upgrades that delivers immediate results. More light, less energy consumption, and greater autonomy at anchor. And above all, no more worrying about running out of power just because you left the lights on board. Are you ready to shine? On the Hinelson store, you'll find bulbs, ceiling lights, LED strips, and even complete conversion kits, all specifically designed for boating. Take a look. And if, like me, you still have a friend who uses incandescent lights, share this video with them, along with, of course, clicking like and leaving your comment. See you in the next video, and fair winds, not too little, not too much, but just right.